Hello, my name is Justin Johnson. I'm the CEO and founder of Sustainable Kitchens. Welcome to my home kitchen here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We are kicking off our Back to Scratch Pantry Makeover video tutorial series. Today we're going to be making the one pot meal. Now whether you call it a soup or a stew, really doesn't matter. And we're going to be making a particular dish, but we're not going to really worry about the ingredients so much. This is much more about the process and the different categories of ingredients. So once you understand what comes first, what comes second, what comes third, all the way through to the end, you can mix and match and swap out all sorts of different ingredients to make your own creation. So let's do it.
Using your pantry, you will identify ingredients in each of the following categories, and using the order of action, you will start to build flavor using the ingredients of your choice. You may want to start by creating some familiar flavor combinations like tomato and basil or beef and potatoes, but as you become more comfortable with the cooking process, you can start to expand your palate and try different ingredient combinations. Now, these are the ingredient categories that we're trying to fill. We're not going to worry too much about the order just yet, but think about a fat, aromatics, your protein, stuff like vegetables, bulk like grains and pasta, deglazer, a punch of flavor, liquid, and a garnish. We will then use these categories to make a one-pot meal. Now, a one-pot meal is anything that is prepared in one vessel. Rather than cooking things in separate kettles or pans, all the ingredients come together in the same place, but not necessarily at the same time. It's important to build flavor by following these steps. Now, before we can do anything else, we need to prepare our mise en place. A mise en place is a French term that simply means to put in place. This is a critical part of any cooking. It refers to having all the ingredients you need to prepare your dish cut, chopped, and roughly measured before you actually start to cook. This way you aren't running for things or needing to interrupt the cooking process once it has started. The first ingredient category that we need to prepare are the aromatics. Now, aromatics can include onions, garlic, leek, celery, shallots, rosemary, sage, thyme, oregano. There's many more, but that's just a few to get you started. For this dish, we're going to be using shallots and oregano. Aromatics are ingredients that release strong aromas and flavors and need to be added early in the cooking process because they need heat and time to do so. The next category that we want to fill for our one-pot meal is a very general category that I like to refer to as stuff. And generally what it is just vegetables. This can be a wide range of things, but just a couple examples: tomatoes, peppers, mushrooms, broccoli, green beans, asparagus, cauliflower, or cabbage. The next ingredient category that we need to prepare is also the last ingredient that we will actually add to the dish, and that is our garnish. Now, usually a garnish is going to be some sort of fresh green herb, and we're going to be cutting up some cilantro here, but you could also use things like scallion, chive, basil, or parsley. The important thing is that you don't want to chop it too rough or too hard because you don't want to beat up the green and lose that really nice, vibrant color. Now, for our final bit of mise en place before we actually start to cook, we're going to prepare our protein. Now, of course, there's a wide range of proteins, more than what we have listed here, but good fits is chicken, ground beef, ground turkey, salmon, pork tenderloin, and you don't even need to use meat if you wanted to substitute something like tofu or tempeh or even chickpeas. Now, remember that order of action we talked about? Let's start to fill in those remaining categories. Here are some categories of fat. Now, of course, there are many others, but things like butter, oil, bacon fat, ghee, which is clarified butter common in Indian cooking. The most important thing here, though, is that we want to make sure that our pan is hot, and we want to make sure that we're using a high-heat rubber spatula rather than anything metal, because we don't want to beat up our pan. Step 1 is we will heat or melt our fat. In this case, we're using olive oil. Next, we will sweat our aromatics to release aromas and begin the flavor building process. Once we can really start to smell the aromas from those shallots and that fresh oregano, we can now add our protein. We want to make sure that the chicken is spaced out evenly so the air and the heat has room to move between the pieces of chicken. If we don't do this, we won't get as much color on the chicken, they won't cook as evenly, and they will steam in their own juices rather than really saute. Next, it's time to add our stuff. In our case, for this dish today, we're going to be doing some tomatoes and peppers. The tomatoes and peppers will bring in some moisture. They will help to kind of pull some of that fond up off of the bottom of the pan that was left by the chicken, and we'll start to build our base and our flavor. The next category that we need to fill is something we're going to call bulk. This is what's going to give our dish a little more body, and it's going to make it more substantial, more hearty. And this could be things like potatoes, rice, beans, or pasta. For our dish today, we're going to throw in a little brown rice. Now, depending on which type of bulk ingredient you're going to add, is going to change the cook time. If you add pasta, you won't need to cook it as long. If you're going to add potatoes, it might need to simmer for a little bit longer so those potatoes get tender. Our next step in the order of action is to add a deglazer. Now, what is a deglazer? It's a liquid that has a couple of functions. One is it's going to kind of cool the pan down, and it's also going to wash up all of those tasty brown bits that have been left by the chicken and the vegetables. It's also going to add another element of flavor. A good example of a deglazer would be things like citrus juices like lemon and lime and orange, or apple cider. The most common deglazer of all is wine. Next, we get to add the most fun category of ingredient, and that's punch. Now, what's punch? To me, the best way to think about it is any ingredient where a little goes a long way, because it brings a punch of potent flavor. And this could be a lot of different things. Spices, tomato paste, Worcestershire, olives, Parmesan, mustard, horseradish, soy sauce, or a hot sauce like sriracha. For our dish, we're going to be adding some chili powder and cumin. At this point, we now need some help to cook everything the rest of the way through. we have chicken, we have rice and vegetables, and we need something that's really going to get those things nice and tender. And the best way that we can do that is with liquid. So our next category is liquid. And these liquids are going to bring everything together and enable everything to cook at the same temperature, at the same heat, and help everything get fully cooked and fully tender. Now, this could be things like chicken stock, beef stock, vegetable stock, tomato puree, milk, water, or even cream. Now that we've added our liquid, we're going to put a cover on and bring it to a quick boil. Once it's boiling, we're going to reduce the heat to a simmer, and we can simmer this for about 30 minutes. Now, if we were doing pasta, we would do it for maybe 10 minutes. If we were doing a heartier grain, like say barley, we might want to do it for closer to 40 minutes. It really kind of just depends on what is in the pot. After the 30 minutes, we can remove the lid and finish the dish by adding our freshly chopped cilantro. And with that, we have an easy, fast, delicious one-pot meal.